Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me as we take a look at the energies from October 7th through the 14th. And what a ride of energy we have over these next few days. So we're going to be talking about what's going on, how to navigate them, and also the higher perspective of what you're meant to see, tap into, and understand for yourself. The energies of October are very dynamic. And that's because we have a lot of shifts occurring that may be around things you've been sitting on, contemplating, wondering, decision making. Should I do this? Should I do that? What about this option or this choice? And this is a month where something is going to intuitively break through and show you a path that maybe you weren't able to see previously. You could have felt blinded or stuck, or even too much in your own head to rise up and out of your mind to understand a bigger picture. And this is occurring because we have the personal planets interacting with the outer planets. Now, the outer planets have a higher consciousness. They have a higher understanding of the bigger picture, the bigger plan, and what is possible that our personal planets don't always see right away. And over this next week, we're going to have Mercury in Scorpio exactly opposes Uranus in Taurus at 9 degrees. That's happening on October 7th, and it happens 2 more times, October 19th and November 17th. So this week begins a process of looking at something you've been fearing. You've been doubting, you've been circling in, you've been maybe going down some rabbit holes, considering all these possibilities. That's because Mercury in Scorpio is a digger, an investigator, and it goes into what choice to make out of a perception of control. And I'm going to make this choice because it feels the best, or I'm going to go in this direction because of X, Y, and Z. Well, as this Mercury opposes Uranus and Taurus 3 times over the next 5 to 6 weeks, you have the option of breaking out of fear-based programming that's actually preventing you from what you want. Uranus and Taurus is realigning us with what we want, what has meaning, what's important, what we can actually manifest and create if our limiting minds and our smaller thoughts weren't preventing us from doing something. So there is a breakout energy here that is asking you to examine the fears that have been coming up, examine perhaps why those fears exist, and you could go into any reasoning around that, where it's the fear of loss, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of making the quote-unquote wrong choice, the fear of on and on. You could give yourself many reasons. And the universe is coming in to say, if you can let go of that fear, I'm going to show you what you can create based on what you're worthy of, what you have earned, what you deserve, where you can experience something joyful that you weren't able to tap into when you were circling down the drain mentally. So there is a process underway, but it does take your willingness and your openness to let go of what your mind has been fixated on, obsessed on, really overly focused on, and ultimately trying to control. I feel like this is going to be a beautiful opportunity to really be in alignment with your spiritual power. Because the strength of Scorpio is that once we ride the waves, move through a fear, even go through some of the deep emotions that come up, then we feel a clearing. And that clearing can bring you a new vision, a new vista point, a new understanding that you weren't able to see when you were down in those depths. So know that there is support right now for moving those energies mentally. The other big energy we have going on right now is the Mars retrograde in Aries will be squaring Pluto in Capricorn at 22 degrees on October 9th. And this is a building energy that we've already been in that started back in the middle of August, about August 14th, August 15th, when both Mars and Pluto were at 23 degrees. At that time, Mars was direct and Pluto was retrograde. Now they have switched directions. Mars is retrograde, Pluto's direct. And what that means is that the direct planet has more power, has more authority, if you will, energetically, and is going to assert itself to demonstrate what it has learned and what it has already covered in its own journey. So this means that Pluto in Capricorn is stronger this month, and it's showing us, again, at a personal level, because Mars is a personal planet, it's showing us how our personal will and our desires are being reprogrammed for a higher consciousness, for trust in a process, for understanding that it can take time to develop and grow something that you really want. And so give yourself time. And that can be tricky with this impatient and impulsive Mars retrograde in Aries. But this Mars is under pressure. And he's under pressure through the middle of October, as not only does he connect with the energies of this stronger Pluto, but Mars is going to also be opposing the Sun in Libra at 21 degrees. And that will be happening October 13th and 14th. And this Mars is also feeling the pressure from a direct Jupiter in Capricorn that he will also square later on in October. Specifically, that will be at 19 degrees. October, we'll call it the 17th through the 21st is when those energies will be exact. So what does it mean when we have all of this intense energy, the oppositions and the squares, working with Mars retrograde in Aries? It means that our egos are being reworked. It means that we're looking at how we would normally do things are not supported right now. Or rather, they won't go long. They won't be a long-term solution. The Mars energy is being required and forced to slow down. And that could very much be connected to part of your frustration, anger, intense reactions right now. And what is happening at a deeper level is that because this Mars is being asked to slow down and to do things differently, he's also being redirected to his heart. And I'm seeing the image of a bigger heart that is a masculine energy, which Mars in Aries very much is. And it's a reprogramming of the energy systems in the body to incorporate what's really in your heart. Because Mars in Aries will take off and go for it and just start that next adventure and not be in touch with what's in his heart. So there's a reprogramming here at a deeper level of our being, where how we would normally act or how we would normally take action is not going to serve us in the long term. Instead, we're being asked to ensure that what we want is connected to what we truly desire and is also connected to our feminine energies as well. So there is support for a rebalancing, and you're going to feel that when Mars in Aries retrograde opposes the Sun in Libra, which is powerful balancing. They're both in masculine energies, and they're both asking us to look at what we're understanding about ourselves, how we're showing up in relationships to others. And I feel it as this expansion of self, where we've been forced to go through a lot of big energies this year and in the past decade. And now there's this requirement, I'm going to say at a cosmic level, that how we act or how we move forward is allowing us to be the fullness of ourselves, the expanded versions of ourselves. And that means we're taking a risk on who we are right now. We're taking the risk to be more in our fullness and more in our balanced masculine and balanced feminine, which is also the balancing of the mind with the heart. And there is the ability to open up what's in the heart and to act from that place, to follow that desire or to follow that path that perhaps has been scary or perhaps has been very uncertain. That's where we're developing courage. And it's because Mars is being slowed down that we're able to really look at how we can grow stronger, more confident, and more courageous in this part of ourselves. Because what Mars is re-examining right now is going to last for the next 2 years, because Mars works in a 2-year cycle, and it is rare for him to be retrograde in Aries, because he rotates where he retrogrades. So for him to be retrograde in the very first sign of the zodiac, the sign that he rules, means that he is being deeply reprogrammed. The divine masculine is being very deeply reprogrammed. I know I've talked about that throughout this year. And yes, the feminine is being deeply reprogrammed too. But the focus right now is actually on the fears that were initiated, that I feel in other lifetimes, around what it means to be strong, what it means to be even some of these archetypal energies of a warrior, of a soldier, of a leader, of the energy of how you've been in control, and yet now there is a repartnering with the cosmos about what that looks like and how you move forward from an expanded viewpoint. Almost like normally you would do 1, 2, and 3 to, let's say, go for a job or, follow a new path in your career. And what the cosmos is doing is applying the brakes and slowing you down and saying, is this really what you want? And if the answer is yes, then bring in more of the tools, more of the energies, more of what you desire, so that you're not limiting yourself to a job description. Because have you ever wanted a job and you look at the job description, everything that's posted, and you think, oh yeah, I can meet all of that. But really, you have a lot more to offer. You're just trying to fit yourself into that description in order to be hired, only to realize further down the line, you can do so much more, but they don't have space in the company for you to do more. So within, let's say, 6 months, you're at a dead end because you realized you didn't apply for the job that was really the best fit for you. It was limiting. It's like a compression of energy instead of an expansion of energy. And then you're basically back at square one looking for another job that is a better fit for you, your talents, your abilities, how you want to grow, what you want to do. But what the universe is saying, well, look at how you limited yourself in the first place. And I don't mean that in some kind of like punishing way, but it's looking at your energy. It's looking at your choices where you agreed to limit yourself or to turn down your light or to hold back your talents to fit into someone else's description. And so this is the energy of reprogramming, where you're looking at what you're really capable of, what's really in your heart, what you really want to do. And even if there doesn't seem to be a job opening right now for that exact need or for what you have to offer, there's divine timing in that too. So I'm using this example because I trust that it's applicable to many of you who are listening, but it's understanding that this is how we unconsciously limit ourselves and limit our lives, is because we say, oh, I can only do this because this is the only opening. But when you are in a higher paradigm and you're really in that 5D experience of energy, anything can open up. Anything can be possible. And what I've also found through my own personal experience, as well as through those that I know, the things that are meant for you, they find you, but it's often outside of the normal means. Or it can happen very quickly. It can happen very abruptly. It can happen through a conversation or something that sparks your interest. It's almost like you're not having to go through the typical 1, 2, 3 steps. You are able to accelerate the energy when you are in direct alignment with who you are and what you do. And it changes the energy around where things can come to you, be magnetized, or show up in very synchronistic manners because you are energetically in aligned with your energy, with who you are, your gifts, your talents, what you're able to do. And then the universe brings in and brings forward that next step or that next best path. So this is why the slowdown is important, because we're looking at the unconscious parts of ourselves that we're operating from a smaller sphere of energy, of experience, of possibility. And in October, you're being asked to be very honest with yourself around those fears and to allow your energy to expand out to new possibilities that God, Source, Spirit, the universe is able to open up for you. But it takes your human willingness to participate in that. But this is exactly how the interactions between the personal planets and the outer planets expand our consciousness and require us to grow. The sun is in Libra, and as I do this live, the sun is at 14 degrees. And that means it is approaching the upcoming threesome in Capricorn energies, starting at 18 degrees when the sun in Libra will square Jupiter in Capricorn. The sun travels 1 degree a day, so it's very easy to watch how quickly the sun moves. And when the sun in Libra squares Jupiter in Capricorn, that's where there can be big conversations, big plans, big possibilities. That is the energy of what you want to do next. And then the sun in Libra is going to meet up with an opposition to Mars in Aries at 21 degrees, followed by a square to Pluto in Capricorn at 22 degrees. And so what it means here for the sun in Libra, the sun in Libra can be stuck in paralysis, analysis paralysis, not knowing what choice to make, not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do. And it can be this internal back and forth between the two halves of your brain, where you're kind of like wrestling yourself for something, where you feel out of balance. Over this next week, the energy is going to increase. The pressure is going to increase. You're going to feel it. And there's something here that actually is trying to take you out of your mind, out of the mental energy. So Libra is a air sign, and it is the only planet in an air sign. Now, we do have the North Node in Gemini, which is an air sign as well. And that is where we are learning how to keep a conversation going, how to stay open to new information, new facts, new details, how to communicate without the emotion, how to step out of our opinions and to hear what someone else has to say. So how very interesting that all of this would be coming up during a very volatile presidential election, that we're learning how to have conversations and to hear other people's experiences without applying our own opinions or our own sense of right or wrong. Easier said than done, I know, but when you can make that connection of what the North Node in Gemini is revealing, it can help you develop more of those qualities in yourself and in your life. So the sun in Libra and the North Node in Gemini will make a trine when they're both at 22 degrees, and that will be on October 15th, which is also the day that the sun exactly squares Pluto in Capricorn. And what I'm looking at through all these energies is that we are really breaking out of our own mental limitations. And it's not easy. It really isn't, but it's supported right now. And it's where there are more possibilities arriving and waiting for you that I feel can't quite be imagined or tapped into just yet. Now, the sun in Libra is getting this pressure, and it's showing us our own back and forth, our own indecision, our own sense of, okay, if I do this, then blah, 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 or if I do that, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? We can be very wrong at times, which our ego doesn't want to hear. And we can not see something that is best for us or that could happen. It's sort of like I'm feeling the energy of surprise. Stay open. Stay open to being surprised. And when you can declare that that's the energy you want, then that's what you will experience. So you can shift it around to wherever you're feeling indecisive or uncertain, or you're going back and forth about something. The middle of October is applying a pressure, and it can feel like a pressure cooker. It can feel like you're afraid of something happening that I want to say can be a very valid fear. I think it's important to honor our fears and to honor the fact that we have them for a reason. I remember years ago, I was doing some NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, with one of my mentors. I mean, this was like 15 years ago. And she taught me how our fears want to keep us safe, and that our fears can be operating from a place of love. But that's not what we feel, right? We don't feel it as love. We feel it as fear, as danger, as, oh no, I don't want something to happen. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be humiliated. I don't want to be judged. You know, we have all these messages that can come up, and that Mercury in Scorpio can make them a bit deeper, darker, and even more intense. But if you're able to shift it and say, okay, I'm going to change this 4-letter word of fear into another 4-letter word called love, then you change the energy around and you move through it, and you can start to see perhaps some of the best case scenarios or some openings or some new energies come in that give you a resurgence of strength and confidence. And one of the things that I tell myself in my own little internal world is that either way, I'll be okay. No matter what happens, I'll figure it out. No matter how this unfolds, I'm going to know what is right for me. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to understand it. I'm going to know what to do. So it opens up your own energetic pathways, as well as trust in yourself. That, okay, if this happens and so does this or so does that, then I know the universe is going to show me my next best options, and I'll know where to go next. I'll know what to trust next. So there's this support right now to continue to develop trust in yourself, that you're going to know exactly what's right for you no matter what happens, no matter what unfolds, no matter what choice is made. It's sort of like living from that place of, if you take a step forward, if you make a decision, if you say yes, if you go for it, then X, Y, and Z are possible to unfold. But even those things you don't know. And then if you don't do it, or you don't say yes and you realize it's not right for you, then other options are going to show up and other options are going to be presented to you. And I feel like this is part of our ongoing practice right now, is to stay open to the new energies coming through, because it's very 3D to be stuck in the fear. But then in the 5D and beyond, there's always more openings. There's always more shifts and more energies and more possibilities. And in fact, you don't stay in those energies as long because you've just opened up to the next best thing or another option. The other thing that is important to remember right now is that if you, for whatever reason, decide no on something, no, you don't want to go visit your grandma, no, you don't want to go check something out, whatever it might be. If it's meant for you, you're going to keep feeling it. You're going to keep sensing it. It's going to come back around. And if it has your name on it, if it's truly for your best and highest good, the universe will make it so clear to you that this is something to say yes to. So you could try that approach too, or any other number of approaches. But the energy never lies. The energy is something you feel and you sense and you know intuitively or even energetically that it's right for you, even if your mind and your ego are doing a battle here. And that's another way to look at this middle time in October. It is our minds, Sun in Libra, and our egos, Mars and Aries, that are actually feeling the pressure to change, to grow, and to not be stuck in the limitations of the ego mind or of the false ego, which are also associated with false senses of power. This is understanding that you have more support, and there's things that you don't know and that you can't know yet, simply because it's not time. but you might sense it. You might feel it. You might get that understanding of, okay, I really feel like this is the best choice for me. And when I take my mind out of it, and when I take my ego out of it, I have 100% clarity, and that energy is coming most likely from your intuitive self and your heart. So you can also look at this as a very deep reprogramming and rebalancing of your own divine masculine, divine feminine energies that are coming into more of a healthy conversation with each other. Now, the sun in Libra is ruled by Venus, who is now in Virgo. And Venus in Virgo is a bit like, keep your head down, and I don't want to deal with drama. I don't want to deal with the big issues of life. I just want to get some things done today. I need to organize the bathroom cabinet. I want to make sure I take my supplements and my herbs. This is very much a practical Venus who just wants to focus on the tasks at hand and doesn't want to be bothered by some of these bigger things going on. So you could feel that as well, where you go into some of these bigger issues in your life or some things that are coming up, and then a part of you is like, yeah, I just want to focus on what to make for dinner tonight. That's all I want to look at. That's all I want to handle. Venus in Virgo has some support over this next week as she trines Uranus retrograde in Taurus at 9 degrees on October 9th and 10th. And then she has a sextile to Mercury in Scorpio at 11 degrees on October 12th. And so this Venus in Virgo is really going to be ready to make some changes, to look at what satisfies her, to be very clear on where to direct her energy, and also to know that she doesn't have to try to do it all. And she can just be satisfied with the little things, the simple things, the basics. So there is an energy of, okay, all this stuff is moving around. There's these bigger questions, these bigger issues. What do I do with this? What about this part of my life? And then there's support for taking care of what you can manage and what actually feels good. It's a really good time for body work, for moving the energy through yourself physically, for looking at where something might be stuck or stagnant, and to keep taking care of your physical self. I've mentioned before, there's videos on YouTube you could watch about acupressure. There is EFT tapping. I've recommended Brad Yates before because he has a lot of different videos and a lot of different topics. He also works with emotions, which can get stuck in the body. So please check out Brad Yates, Yates. There's also Jin Shin Jitsu and the finger holds that I've mentioned before, and it's certainly worth mentioning again, where you gently hold your fingers. So any hand, both hands, you would hold your pinky lightly and gently. And when you hold it, you'll feel the energy move through. Then you move on to your ring finger, your middle finger, etc. And as you hold the fingers, it moves emotions through you. I'm going to put a graph here on the podcast episode so you can see what you're working with as you hold the energies in each finger. This is another easy way to move energy. You can also do Ho'oponopono prayers, which is where you release and you let go, you accept, you forgive. This is also very powerful to do for yourself. Of course, there's all kinds of different areas of body work, and that would be really great to look into right now. You can do anything with sound healing, acupuncture, Reiki, etc., etc. These are all important ways to move the energy as we move through the dynamic changes and dynamic energies of October. So know that what is happening is that we're feeling a lot going on and we're moving through it at many levels of our being, are feeling these energies, mind, body, spirit, and everything in between. And what we're looking at is how we're repartnering with the cosmos in a more trusting, loving manner so that we can continue into this decade with a stronger and more aligned sense of self. Now, Mercury retrograde. It happens starting October 13th at 11 degrees of Scorpio and we'll travel back to 25 degrees of Libra until November 3rd. Now, I will touch on this as we go into the rest of October, and I did already share with you more about Mercury at the beginning of this show. But something that's very interesting about this retrograde is that there's an energy playing out into the middle of November, I'm going to say for a month, through many cycles here of planets and interactions. So I feel like if you're sitting on a big decision, if there's something that you are going back and forth with, and back and forth, trust this in yourself. Are you going back and forth between your head and your heart? Are you going back and forth between timelines? Are you going back and forth between different parts of your world and your experience or your lives, etc.? There's something where you are going back and forth, but you're actually gathering more power and strength to do what's in your heart. And that's the shift, and that's where we're trusting. And I feel like this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is leading us back into parts of ourselves that have these beautiful, trusting messages that have been covered up through lifetimes of experience, lifetimes of disappointment, death, harm, hurt, betrayal, manipulation, control. There's all these energies that have covered up a part of yourself that you trust. And if this resonates, and if you're willing to change it, this is a beautiful time to, it's sort of like, I get the image of like throwing off blankets, where like if you're laying on a bed or sitting on a couch, you have all these blankets, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't want any of these blankets. So one is abuse, and one is manipulation, one is betrayal, and one is this, and one is that. And it's these unconscious energies that have been layered on top of our ability to trust ourselves, to go into these, it's like this pristine energy that's so clear and it's so high vibrating. I feel it as very crystalline, very white, very loving, very supportive, and it's been shrunk down, it's been discolored, and it's really been smothered. And now there is an opportunity to trust yourself, to trust what you feel, to trust what's in your heart. And oh my goodness, I'm feeling so many tears. I'm feeling so many tears because of the pain that has really gone into these experiences. And it's like, I'm hearing it's like the pain of being human, the pain of the heart, the pain of loving, the pain of where you want to share and it wasn't reciprocated, it wasn't received. Again, rejection or humiliation or judgment, abandonment, abuse, trauma, manipulation, betrayal, all these things that are a part of our human experience. They're very, very real. And yet they can all be transmuted. They can all be shifted and released, but it does require doing some work. And that is the emotional release, or talking it out, getting it out of your head, getting it out of your heart, moving through it in a very authentic, real manner, very genuine. I mean, it can be as simple as writing out your feelings, writing out your fears. It's an exercise or something you can do on your own. However, Mercury in Scorpio is well suited to therapy, counseling, working with a healer, working with someone else that you trust to share your feelings with, and to move the energy in that way. So what I'm feeling is that this is a very powerful Mercury retrograde that's going to ask you to be very honest with yourself about your fears, the emotional fears that you've been traveling and holding, that we all have. I think quite honestly, we could all raise our hands and say, yes, I have fears around rejection, abandonment, manipulation, betrayal, etc. However, what I'm feeling is possible for so many of you, and you know this, you really know this, is that you can get back to that pristine, beautiful place of trusting yourself in a very powerful, real way that reminds you of who you truly are and what's really in your heart. And wow, this is deep. I'm going to do a separate show on this Mercury retrograde and Scorpio energy. And I think it's going to be more intuitively channeled. And I feel it coming through strongly. So I'm going to try and get that out to you sooner rather than later. Because I'm feeling this energy moving in the collective, where so many of you who are advanced souls, you are light workers, you are star seeds, you are star workers, you are from other places. You are needed to move into new roles and new parts of your own energy. That's necessary for your own soul's growth. And this is the push that 2020 is showing you and giving you. And this is where we do our own work, and we have to be very clear with ourselves around our commitment to our own energy and to our own path. But there's going to be shifts here. I feel like this strong energy of yes for so many of you. Like, yes, I'm going to go for it. Yes, I want that. Yes, that matters to me. Yes, it's worth it. And even if you don't know what's going to happen next, there's a part of you rising up that doesn't care. Like the energy shifts to where, well, it doesn't matter what happens next because I can handle it. I'll move through it. I can make another choice. There will be another option. This isn't the end of the road. There'll be something else that shows up. I'm not putting everything on the line. I trust myself. I trust my ability to do what I need to do next. And that's what's coming forward. But I feel like there has to be some work first around those deeper fears that you know, and you've been probably feeling limited by them. It's been creating the indecision. But something's going to shift and you're going to be like, oh, I don't even care about those fears anymore because I know that I'm being pushed forward for a reason because this is in my heart and there's these heart openings. Okay, so I'm going to do another show about that Mercury and retrograde energies because I can feel there's a lot coming through. So I'm going to end this week's show with the reminders that there is pressure here in the middle of October. And there are things coming up that you probably have to make a decision about, whether that is something you've been working through all year or whether it's something kind of new. It doesn't matter. It's coming up for a reason. And I feel like it's coming up because of what you've been internally battling back and forth. And if you are willing to give space and energy to trust, confidence, love, your heart energy, if you're willing to open up to that, the decision's going to be clear, the action's going to be clear, and the energy's going to be clearer. So on that note, I'm going to sign off for today's show. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast. I appreciate your time, energy, and presence. I never take it for granted, and I am walking this path with you. We are doing this together, and I'm just glad I can offer some encouragement and perspective to help you on your own journey. You can find out more about me over at mollymccord.online. That's where you'll find my business development programs as well as the astrology programs. And you can also check out my author website over at consciouscoolchic.com. That offers more of my books, spiritual teachings, consciousness topics, and more. I will see you back here soon for our next podcast episode. And in the meantime, I wish you much joy and clarity as we move through October 2020.